and welcome to Liminal Space. My name's David Fideli, and in this episode I'm in discussion with Ray Good. Originally from the UK, Ray is a meditation and mindfulness practitioner and coach, currently based in Australia. In a previous life, Ray was a successful DJ performing under the name Sugarray and was listed as one of the world's top 100 DJs in the 90s. He was regularly performing at sold-out raves in London, Tokyo and Berlin, and organised large-scale music events for up to 15,000 people. Ray also owned one of Australia's most respected import record stores and started his own record label. But this high-octane lifestyle took its toll, and Ray experienced a total burnout. One of his friends suggested that he try meditation, and he's been meditating every day since. This was 28 years ago, and today Ray runs his own business, The Good Place, where he teaches simple and practical meditation and mindfulness techniques to others in order to reduce stress, increase resilience, and improve productivity and performance. Ray's style mixes modern science and Eastern philosophy. It's evidence-based mindfulness and resilience training, backed with 28 years' experience and the latest scientific research. Some of the topics we discuss include the difference between meditation and mindfulness and the neuroscience behind these techniques, the many benefits of these practices to improve mental health, well-being and happiness, especially in times such as these when many of us are currently experiencing heightened stress levels and anxiety, the importance of having a routine and setting patterns in our daily lives, including designating time for self-care and switching off to recharge our minds, the potential negative impacts of social media in raising anxiety levels, including the dangers of being continually connected to technology, and the power of meditation and mindfulness in allowing us to take back control of our lives and empowering us to make better decisions. Ray also shares simple strategies that we can all incorporate into our daily lives to improve our mental well-being, including the concept of 30-second to 3-minute micro-meditations, which we can use to punctuate our day. And at the end of our chat, Ray actually guides us through one of these micro-meditations, which has a profound and unexpected effect on me. Before we begin, if you'd like to support the channel, please subscribe below and hit the bell button to be notified of upcoming episodes. But for now, make yourself comfortable as we enter a liminal space. Hi Ray, and welcome to a Liminal Space.
Thanks Dave, great to be here. Welcome to The Good Place. This is my space.
It's a wonderful space, and yeah, we've got lots of time to chat now, so we can talk about all the great things you're doing. We finally got here. Technology didn't want us to actually record this podcast, but we finally got there, and perhaps that's the best way to begin. You're a meditation and mindfulness coach and practitioner, amongst many other things. And as I was experiencing these technological difficulties, I could feel my stresses really going up and my blood pressure rising. And, we're living in strange and stressful times these days. So really happy to have you here, and hopefully you can guide us through some strategies to maybe, make sure that we look after our mental health and so forth in these days. So yeah, thanks for taking the time.
No problem. Yeah, absolutely essential right now that we look after our, our mental health and build resilience, and look after our, our well-being and our happiness. So absolutely. So hopefully today I could share some of the tools that I share with other people to help them and help myself personally over the past 28 years. So that's the plan anyway.
Great.
To share these tools with others.
Let's, if you don't mind, I know it's probably the question you get asked more than anything, but I think it's a really important place to start, which is, what is mindfulness and what is the difference between meditation and mindfulness?
Okay, so put simply, mindfulness is awareness and attention training for the brain. I think that's the simplest analogy that's the simplest way of putting it. Yeah. But mindfulness means being fully present, aware, and engaged in the moment instead of your mind being off elsewhere.
Okay.
So it's about, that's probably the easiest way of explaining it. So it's mental training for the mind is probably the easiest way. Now, many people get confused about mindfulness and meditation. They're actually two different things. Meditation is the exercise that cultivates mindfulness in our day-to-day life. So, yeah.
So would that be in essence, that we're trying to achieve mindfulness, and we use meditation practices to get us closer to that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's it's like the exercise, like the workout, like going to the gym, right? So meditation is the same way we exercise for our physical health and well-being. Meditation is exercise for our mental health and well-being. The equivalent of a jog around the block, 30-minute jog around the block, or eating your daily 5 fruit and veg. That's what I like to say.
Yeah, nice. And is it something that that anybody and everybody can do and can access, or are there limitations, or how easy, or how do people get into it if it's all a bit scary?
If it's all a bit scary?
Yeah, well, not scary, but sometimes people may think that they don't have the ability to do these practices, or it may be something that's a bit woo-woo, or something that's a bit out there, and it really isn't. And so, how can you talk to that?
Well, I guess the most important thing is, anyone can learn to meditate. Mindfulness is a secular practice. Its roots are based in Eastern philosophy that's 2,500 years old, but modern mindfulness is secular, so it's available to everybody. Is it easy? No, working with our minds is not easy. Our minds aren't designed to make us happy. They're designed for our survival. With training and with practice and consistency, you can learn to have a better relationship with your mind through your meditation practice, for sure.
And how much time do we need per day, per week, how do you sort of talk to that?
Well, I've had a meditation practice for 28 years. I normally meditate for between sort of 10 to 20, 30 minutes in the morning and at night. I find that's a good amount of time for me. There's a great old Zen quote as well. It says that you should meditate every day for 20 minutes. Unless you're too busy, then you should meditate for an hour. But the good news for the listeners today is that, research from Harvard showed that after 8 weeks of mindfulness training, we actually start to grow the grey areas of our brain associated with learning, memory, empathy and compassion. This is called the hippocampus. And the area of our brain associated with stress, which is called the amygdala, actually starts to shrink. And the good news is that it only takes 10 minutes a day. So the science is showing us that just 10 minutes a day can have a really big impact on our health and our happiness. So 10 minutes. But, with the people that I coach, a lot of people say to me, I don't have 10 minutes to meditate. And so, I teach them little micro meditations, little 30-second to 3-minute meditations that you can use to sort of punctuate your day to do alongside your sort of longer practices. But at the end of the day, even 1 minute counts. Just taking 1 minute out of your day just to have a little mental break can have such a profound effect, for us, because as human. I was going to say human beings, but we're really human doings, aren't we? Mm-hmm. We need to take time out of our day to reset, reboot, and recharge. We charge our phones, but we don't take any time out of our day to actually stop and recharge our minds and the brain. So, I resonate so much with so much that you've just said there. Do you think there's a possibility at the end of this chat you could guide me through what did you call it? A micro meditation? Yeah. We'll do it. We'll do a 3-minute practice at the end, just to show you how easy it is. I guess the key, and when I teach people, the key is, it's better to do shorter meditations regularly. The benefits, it's cumulative. We need to do the practice every day to really get the benefits. So it's better to do shorter meditations every day than to do longer meditations, infrequently.
Yeah.
So, or if you can, do longer meditations every day, but not, that's the best way of approaching the practice. But as I said, even 1 minute counts. But if you can get 10 minutes a day in, that's kind of like the sweet spot, I think, for a lot of people.
And what are the benefits or gains, or what's the end result that we're trying to achieve through meditation and mindfulness?
Well, I guess the benefits are that we build mental resilience, and emotional well-being. We're better able to manage stress and anxiety and uncertainty, which is really important right now. It can improve our productivity and our performance, our sleep, and boost our happiness and our health. So the science is so overwhelmingly good on the benefits of practicing meditation. I mean, and I guess it's only been in the last 10 years with technology that neuroscientists can actually measure what's going on for meditators. And so there's been so much science come out over the last 10 years about the benefits of practicing mindfulness and meditation. Just to give you an idea, in 2006 there was 64 published journal articles on PubMed about mindfulness and meditation. Today there's over 8,000. So, there's so much research coming out all the time, but it's still, so the science has caught up. Meditation's been around for 2,500 years. It's not a new thing. It's just that the science has finally caught up, and that's the reason. Yeah. So, and that's one of the reasons for the explosion of mindfulness and meditation over the past 5 years. That and chronic stress, of course.
So it seems crazy that if it's only requiring, 10 minutes, of course, the more you do, the more benefit you get. It seems crazy that this is not more widely taught in schools or, just across the board.
Well, it actually is. I mean, last year in Britain, the British government announced it was rolling out a new subject to 370 schools across the country, mindfulness. It's being taught at Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Cambridge. Right. You can even do your master's in mindfulness at Oxford. Many of the world's top thinkers and performers practice mindfulness. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Lewis Hamilton, Novak Djokovic, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Arianna Huffington, even Jay-Z, and of course the one and only Oprah. So, in that regard, and of course in the business world, mindfulness has really exploded. Companies like Facebook, Google, Nike, LinkedIn, Goldman Sachs, all the big ones, making sure their people are looked after. Mental health is a really big priority within a lot of the big corporate companies right now. So, it's being taught in hospitals, prisons, and schools. So it's really, over the last 5 years, really starting to creep into the mainstream, which is really exciting. I think in the same way that, it'll be like brushing your teeth. It's kind of like, it's one of those things you don't really enjoy doing, but you do it, it's good for you. And it's like meditation, it'll kind of, it's kind of, I think it'll be like that soon, It's like you get up, you do your meditation. It's like brushing your teeth, like looking after your mind.
It's, I hope it's going to become like brushing your teeth, because I'd like to share my own personal experience and struggles with meditation, actually.
Yeah.
Because I think that's also really important to do, to share real life experiences, and my experience has been, so I was advised that a good way to start was an app called Waking Up by Sam Harris, which I downloaded on my phone. And Sam Harris, it's a paid app, but if you write to him, and if people aren't in a financial position to be able to pay for that, it's available. He makes it available as a free download. So if anyone out there would like to start, but perhaps financially restricted, that can remove that barrier. So I downloaded this app.
And he's a neuroscientist, right? And he has an amazing podcast, and he's a really amazing guy. He's a writer, he's really on the edge of science and culture and
Yeah.
a lot of these crazy topics.
And this is what I like. This is what I like about you and about Sam and about, it's a. And I maybe it sounded a bit strange at the start, but I do believe that a lot of people have this resistance to mindfulness because, it can be sort of linked to an alternative lifestyle. But really, it's rooted in science and the humanities. But my challenge is that I downloaded this app, and it has guided meditations for about 10 or 12 minutes per day.
Yeah.
Yet, and I know we've spoken many times about the benefit, yet I find myself not finding this 10 or 12 minutes per day, or making excuses every day, or delaying it by some minutes or some hours, and then it's at the end of the day and I'm tired and I go to sleep, and then I wake up the next day and I say I need to do this every day. And I guess is this something that's common? Do you hear this from people, and what would you say to people that
Absolutely.
have?
Yeah, I hear it from it's a very common thing. A lot of people find it really hard to actually commit to the practice, and it is a practice, right? So it's not like, when we exercise, there's an instant hit of endorphins and feel good chemicals. Meditation's not like that. So I guess for a lot of people, they don't get an instant benefit from it, so it's hard for them to get motivated to continue with the practice.
Yeah.
So
that's my own experience. I have a personality that likes to see immediate results, as many of us do. And this, I think we need to be realistic about it. It is work. And, even though it's 10 or 12 minutes, it can sometimes be easy to not have as our priority. But the many chats that I've had with you has been really, it's motivated me, and, hopefully after this discussion as well, this daily practice. So maybe if we can do a bit of a rewind, because you said you've been practicing meditation for 28 years.
Yeah.
And I know you've had another experience, or, your life was very different before that time. And now you are Ray Good, but there was a time when you were Sugarray.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about your time before meditation, and maybe that can be a good way to explain sort of, why it became so important in your life as well?
Yeah, well, I guess it explains why and how I got into meditation. So in the early 90s, I was a DJ, a rave DJ, and I found myself on the list of the world's top 100 DJs. I had this crazy lifestyle. I was playing all over the world, Berlin, San Francisco, Tokyo, playing these amazing parties. But at the same time, I was an entrepreneur and a promoter. I was putting on large events for thousands of people. I had weekly club nights. I owned my own import record store, and I had my own record label. So, I had this amazing life going on. But I found that, I was really unhappy in a lot of ways, and it's not a life that was a healthy lifestyle. Being up late at night. Back then, people were smoking in clubs, my health suffered, and I burnt out, and I was desperate for a way to. I was looking for help. I was desperate for a way to try and help back then, and so a friend told me about a meditation class, and. Back then I was skeptical as well. I thought it was all, crystals, candles and sandals, hippie woo-woo. But I went along, and, that day changed my life forever. And since then I've had a daily meditation practice. It's been, it's the most important thing I do every single day. As important as eating and drinking. And that's how I came to it. And that's it.
So maybe we should spend a few minutes. You went very quickly through your. You were noted as one of the world's top 100 DJs. we just spend a few minutes on that. I mean, that must have been also an amazing time in your life, yeah?
Yeah, it was an amazing time in my life, but it was also a deeply, I was also really unhappy because as I became more successful, I achieved all these things that society installs into us that we should achieve, like money and fame and, you know, all that, the baggage and the trappings and all the stuff that came with that. And the more successful I became, the more isolated I felt and the more unhappy I felt. So I had everything materialistically that I thought would make me happy. I got there, and I'm not saying this in a way to be egotistical, I'm saying it in a way that, you know, we all strive to you know, to make loads of money and to, you know, have a nice house and a car, and, you know, I achieved all that, you know, and when I got there, I was really unhappy, and I was like, hang on a second, I'm supposed to be happy, I've achieved all this stuff, and, you know, that, you know, and I wasn't, and so, you know, it led me on this path, this search to really try and find genuine contentment, happiness, and some kind of inner peace. And so I turned my back on that stuff in a sense. You know, I said, you know, for me, I'd achieved it, I got there, wasn't happy, and I'm like, you know, there's got to be more to life than this, and to really find that contentment and happiness. And so that led me on that path. I guess it was a spiritual path originally, to try and find that, I call it my good place. And, you know, it's taken me a long time. You know, it's been 28 years, but I can tell you I've never been more happier in my life, more content. And I don't know if that's just, you know, as we get older, maybe, I don't know. But I have a much better relationship with my mind. I feel happier, I feel more content. I'm more compassionate to myself and to others, and yeah, I don't know, I feel like I got there.
Fantastic. And I guess the brilliant thing that I love now is that you're helping others to get there, or, you know, along the journey as well. So it's not just you're doing it in your own life, you're also sharing.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, we've got these simple tools that we need now more than ever. So I am on a mission to create a more mindful world, and to empower and educate others to look after their most precious and valuable resource, which is their mind, right? And we need these tools because life's not going to slow down, and you know, we sit here in lockdown at the moment, and, you know, a lot of us are struggling with stress and anxiety and uncertainty, and so yeah, you know, a lot of this right now, this is a really important tool. I think mindfulness offers hope in that it's cheap, it's science-based, you know, and it's easy for people to use. So, you know, I think mindfulness really does offer hope, especially when it comes to, you know, the global, you know, mental health crisis that we're going through right now. You know, the World Health Organization says that 1 in 4 people will suffer from a mental or neurological disorder at some point in their life. 1 in 4 of us. I mean, think about your friends, your family, you know, the people around you. 1 in 4 of us will suffer from a mental or neurological disorder.
Well, I think my friends and family, if I'm brutally honest, the percentages are far higher than that. Yeah, you know, and including myself, and what I'm hoping to do with this podcast is to open up a space to have these chats, but also to have these honest chats, because, you know, I know what 2020 and the internet has become. It's become about social media, it's become about image, it's become about highly curated and manicured, you know, Instagram posts, and how great life is, or we frame it, but
the illusion of how life is, you know. So through social media, it's like, you know, you see your friend that's traveling overseas, well, not traveling right now, or like living in a nice house, they got the car, you know. It's just this, it's this this illusion that everyone's kind of sold through social media, right?
And is this contributing in your experience when you speak to people, and the people that you teach? Is this social media, and is this raising anxieties and levels of stresses?
Absolutely. And, there's so much science and research showing the effects of technology on our mental health, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So, we're living in a world of information overload, constant distraction, and, social media, we need to be careful of how much time we spend on social media, for sure.
Yeah. Well, you've given us lots of rabbit holes to go down.
There's lots of rabbit holes to go down.
Yeah, and I'd love to come back to this social media in a second. I just wanted to, I wanted to ask you and then to share a story from my own life about a link between mental health and physical health. Is there the science that backs up that having better mental health also helps you physically and vice versa?
Well, I think they're very much both interrelated. I mean, body and mind are connected. There's no separation. We know that.
Yeah.
But, there's so many ways that we can be looking after our health and our mental health. I mean, I guess coming back to what you said before as well, you talk about opening up a space. I think that's good because, in the past, there used to be a stigma around mental health. It's something that people didn't talk about. It was something that was kind of kept behind closed doors. And my own experience, my dad's an alcoholic. His dad was an alcoholic. My sister suffers. She's got a mental health problem. So I've seen it firsthand, the effects. And me personally, I'm someone that, that struggled with stress. And that's what brought me to, meditation and mindfulness, and I am someone that stress is a big part of my life, but meditation helps me to manage it. Definitely. Meditation is my medicine in a sense. And when I've gone into the neuroscience and looked about what happens in the brain and the body when we get stressed, just to give you a very quick lesson in it, our brains naturally look for dangers, problems and threats. It's referred to as a negativity bias, and it's our body's survival mechanism. And we can thank our ancestors for that, right? Which was useful back in the old caveman days when our survival depended on anticipating potential, predators or facing real physical dangers and threats, right? But it's not so useful today when our stresses are more likely to be, missed deadlines, our email inbox, traffic jams, or a difficult client or boss, right? So we can easily trigger our fight or flight, our stress response. And when we do this, the body's pumped full of adrenaline and the stress hormone cortisol. Blood's diverted from from the stomach to the larger muscles in the body. So all that happens in 1/100th of a second, and it prepares our bodies to react quickly without thinking, right? Readies us to either fight or bugger off and flight.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So, now, when we're in the grip of this stress response as well, we don't think clearly or rationally because the CEO part of our brain, our prefrontal cortex, is actually shut down, and it's also not good for our for sleep. And so these daily stressors can take a huge toll on our brain and our body for the worse. And in our ultra busy, always on information overload lives, our stress response is constantly being activated all the time. So, when I started to learn about this stuff, it was like, okay, part of it's genetic, I think. A lot of it, if you look at it, it's genetics. It's been passed on from our ancestors. Talking about caveman days, it was, your ancestor that was in the cave worrying about what was going on, and the other, his friend was outside the front, was the one that got eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, right? Yeah. The one that survived passed on his genes. So, genetically, as I said to you before, our brains are, they're not designed for happiness, they're designed for survival. So completely normal.
Yeah.
But of course, with modern life, with, social media, information overload, technology, we're being stressed out all the time, all day.
Yeah.
These little micro stresses are just triggering us, and we're so constantly, we're stressed all the time. And so we need ways to manage and deal with that stress.
Yeah.
So, You know.
And I imagine these stresses in these days, and I don't want this podcast and I don't want this chat to focus on the COVID-19 situation, but
Yeah.
we should spend time to it because it's heightened, or my understanding, well, not only my understanding, my own personal struggles in the last 3 months have shown me that there is a very direct link between stresses and mental health and physical health. And excuse me, 3 months ago, before COVID, I had a very, very stable blood pressure, and I got it tested last week, and in the space of 3 months it's raised into dangerous levels. And I can 100%, I don't need a doctor to tell me that this is there is a direct correlation between the stresses, the additional stresses that COVID-19 is playing on my mind, and it's manifesting in some different physical ways. So blood pressure is going up. I haven't slept as bad as I have in the last 3 months before. And actually, to be brutally honest, 1 week ago, and I was engaging in social media a lot. I was reading from around the world and commenting and arguing, and it was a lot of negativity. I found myself consumed with negativity. And so the reason I wanted to start this podcast actually many months ago, and then COVID happened and it wasn't the right time.
Yeah.
But it actually in the last week has pushed me to say, for my own mental and physical health, I need to change things. And my response to that is actually setting up this podcast. And it's true that in the past week, I have a much clearer mind. I have a much clearer goal. I have a much clearer way where I can focus my attention and my time and my energy. And I hope it's, having discussions like this, which is more positivity. And, we are experiencing at the moment things that humans have never, ever experienced. We are in depending on where we are in the world, but, being locked in your suburb, being locked in your house, having no contact with others, having no touch, all of these things. I am very concerned that this is the hidden virus that is not being spoken about enough. It's not at all downplaying the dangers and the risks and the tragedies that's occurring with COVID, but I hope we also understand the other effects that it's having on us.
And I think we need to be, mindful of our exposure to, to news and social media right now, because the news feeds are designed to draw us in, to get our attention, and social media is filled with virus-filled hysteria, and so uncertainty and fear creates anxiety.
Yeah.
So no wonder we're all feeling anxious. Uncertainty and fear. It's our brain's survival. Our brains are designed for survival, and so it's completely normal for us to feel this way. But in the same way, we need to look after our mental health and well-being. Exercise, good diet. We know that a good diet can play a massive impact on our health and well-being. Sleep, so important, and taking breaks and being throughout the day, little mental breaks can have a massive impact. And you talked about stress. Well, chronic stress is associated with poor immune function, increased risk of cardiovascular, heart disease, high blood pressure and stroke. We know it damages the brain, the memory and learning center, our hippocampus and our prefrontal cortex. It's linked to Alzheimer's, dementia. It accelerates the aging process right down to the DNA in our cells as well. So, stress, we really need to manage our stress levels right now.
Yeah.
Incidentally, when we get stressed, it's a physiological response in the body. Normally we feel it in the body. So, earlier you said, you could feel it in your body, and that's one of the things, one of the practices of mindfulness, we start to recognize when we feel this stress in our body through certain meditation practices like the body scan, and we start to notice it. So we can, I can feel this in my body. And so we've got a choice. We can actually step back and stop it before it's had a chance to take off.
Yeah.
But I think I should also, one of the things I really want to share, that one of the most exciting things I guess I've discovered, the neuroscience of mindfulness and meditation, how it helps stress, is that when we do sit down to meditate, as I'm sure a lot of people watching this have probably tried, and they're like, how does this actually help me? So just to give you a quick example, when we're sitting down and we're meditating and we're focusing on our breath and our mind wanders off and we get caught up in thought, that's not failure, that's success. That's actually a moment of awareness. We're developing awareness, mindfulness, and we bring our attention back. That's like a bicep curl for the brain. We're building our attention muscle. But what we're also doing is strengthening part of our brain called the prefrontal cortex, which is right here, which is the CEO part of our brain. And what the science shows us is that, and that part of our brain is actually connected to the amygdala, the fear center, the emotional part of our brain. So through practicing meditations, we strengthen that prefrontal cortex, which means that we can modulate the amygdala. That means that when we get stressed, it doesn't mean we're not going to get stressed, we will, but it means that we can recover a lot quicker. And we're less reactive.
Yeah.
And these are the attributes of what we call resilience. So this is how meditation actually helps us to build resilience. You're actually strengthening the part of your brain, that rational part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex. So
No, that's
so important to understand that when you're sitting there actually focusing your attention, what you're actually doing, you're building focus, you're building concentration, but you're also strengthening that rational part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is essential because, when we get triggered, when we get stressed and our amygdala fires up, we don't think clearly, we don't think rationally, so we can actually get back on track. And I think that's so important to understand. We're still going to get stressed. These things are going to happen. We're designed, we're hardwired that way. But it's so important, especially when it comes to mental health, because if we're not aware of where our thinking, and we're unmindful, we can easily allow our minds to wander down the path of worry and negative self-talk about the past and the future. And that can lead to, anxiety, depression, and mental health problems. There's a great quote by Lao Tzu, the famous Eastern philosopher. He said, if you're depressed, you're living in the past. If you're anxious, you're living in the future. And if you're at peace, you're living in the present moment. We're caught up thinking about the past and the future all the time. And the present moment is perfect. It's the present moment, like the past is the past and the future's yet to be. So this moment really is the only moment that we have.
Yeah.
But it's so we don't take it for granted because we're constantly caught up in our minds, thinking about the future or thinking about the past.
Can I ask you a question about that, about being in the present and not thinking of the future? How does that relate to, we still need to make plans for the future. We still need to have goals and aims that we're moving towards. So is there not a contradiction or some difficulty here between how do we remain in the present yet still put our focus towards the future?
Well, mindfulness isn't always about being in the present moment. As you just said, we still need to think about the past and plan for the future. But what it's about is about having a choice on where you allow your mind to wander to. That's what it's about. Because a lot of the time, something can happen to us and, someone might say something, we get upset. We end up ruminating, we end up catastrophizing and going over the same thing again and again. And that causes us suffering. It leads to anxiety, depression, and so that's what mindfulness is about, catching yourself. It's not about, stopping thoughts. It's about stepping back and catching yourself before you keep going on and on and on and on and keep ruminating and going over the same thing, because a lot of the time something happens and, someone could say something and, instead of shrugging it off, it can set off a an internal monologue of self-doubt and criticism that can last all day, right?
Yeah.
And that's what meditation is about, learning to step back and see your thoughts with a little bit of distance, giving you a choice on how to respond, whether you want to go down that path or no, I'm not going to choose to go down that path. And I guess that's real freedom, because otherwise we live in a way where our thoughts determine our happiness and can ultimately lead us to suffering and all this other stuff. So it's about stepping back and seeing our thoughts with a little bit of distance, and making a choice. It's about having a choice. That's what it's about. It's about having a choice. But mindfulness is also about developing, kindness, compassion, gratitude, and friendliness. These are really important qualities that we need to cultivate in our life. These are often, I think, these kind of get swept aside a little bit, but these are really important qualities that we need to cultivate in our practice as well. We need to be friendly to ourselves and to others. Really, really important qualities to cultivate.
Well, two things on that. The first is, I've thought about this in my own life, my own practice, and you've just confirmed it with what you said. I get the feeling that these sorts of practices help me. I always like using analogies, and this analogy I have is like a boat. And a boat, if you're not practicing these practices, can basically just be on autopilot and without a direction. And perhaps from hearing your words, it just gave me the visual image of that I can now become the captain of that boat. I can become the captain of that ship. I can actually decide which direction to point my ship and my life. And it may not be that I know exactly the end target, or I don't know where I'm going to be in 10 years of my life, but I can, using decisions rooted in the present, I can sort of move my ship towards a direction. And I guess that's the difficulty for me, at least, who likes to see concrete and tangible results immediately. I need to have faith, and I do have faith, because there are enough people in the world who I respect greatly, yourself included, that tell me that if I keep at it, that this is going to be beneficial for my life. And sometimes things creep up on you. You look back and you say, "Whoa, I didn't know that minuscule changes day by day actually added up to something." And then these days I'm finding myself actually reacting to things in a far different way than I did previously. And without that without that just impulse, whether that be anger, or I'm able to sort of be in control of my ship and just settle myself down. But I'm at the very lowest rung of the ladder of this journey. And it's through these discussions with people like yourself that push me towards it.
Well, and it's about, I think these practices, it wakes us up, and we all need to wake up right now. The world is, look at the world, the environment, what's going through. We need to wake up. There needs to be a shift in consciousness, and we need to come off of autopilot. But the world needs it.
And the world needs it, but I think individually we need it as well. And one of maybe others share the same struggles that I do. I have also issues with myself, with my self-esteem, with loving myself. And I guess to want to be able to improve yourself, you need to first have a respect and a love for yourself. And a desire to want to improve yourself. What about in your own life? How have you been able to negotiate this challenge of you're running a business, you're living in 2020 when social media is so important, we're told, to sharing your practice and so forth, but you're also wanting to disengage on a personal level as much as possible. So what advice can you give people that are in this space that would love to get off social media and love to disconnect, but rely on it for work, for example, or for their passion or what they're doing in their life?
I mean, social media is amazing, right? It's not about, but it's about managing technology so that it works for us rather than against us.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big problems that we face is that we don't like being alone with our thoughts. I think there was a great study that showed we'd rather be electrocuted than left alone with our thoughts. And
I think I wrote that study, yes.
yeah, it's great. But throughout our day, we constantly feel every single second of our day. And, we just can't be with our thoughts. We don't want to feel bored. We're constantly looking for stimulation all the time. And so I think with social media, it's just setting boundaries around it. I teach people to try and, limit the amount of time that they're on social media. Be aware of it. Be aware of the amount of time that you're on social media. So try and limit the amount of time. And, create space in your life to be bored. Boredom is good. It actually gives your brain the chance, your subconscious mind, a chance to actually process what's going on. And I think that's one of the big problems today is that we try to fill every single second of our day. The only time that it's normally when we go to bed and we put our heads hit the pillow. That's the first time that we've actually given our brains a break throughout the day. No wonder we can't sleep. We're trying to process everything that's going on, or we wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So we just need to create more, and this is a show about space. It's called Space. It's about creating, more space in our life and I think, that's one of the important things about taking breaks, mental breaks throughout our day, and just being conscious of our social media usage. I mean, I teach people don't check email first thing in the morning, as an example. As soon as you wake up in the morning, most people check email and straight away they start their day with other people's agendas becoming their to-do list, or they're on the news and they're taking in all this information that's designed to, grab your attention and mainline stress straight to your prefrontal cortex. So, be mindful of the news that you're consuming and the news that you're consuming on social media, because it's going to affect your stress, it's going to affect your anxiety levels, and it's contagious as well. That other people's worries and stress they're contagious, and you can end up feeling that way too. So you need to be mindful of what you're consuming with social media and just manage it. Easier said than done, though.
Yeah.
Technology is designed for us. It's designed to lure us in and to be addictive. So we know that it's very addictive. It's designed to be that way. So we need to be mindful of it.
Yeah, I've read many reports about many people that are involved in the thinking behind some of these social media apps, and none of them allow their own children access to these apps because they understand the addictive. It's not even that they can become addictive. They are designed with the end goal of making us addicted. What I think in my own life, and I'm sure this is felt by everybody, if this idea of habit forming, both good and bad habits, can be, I think there's some statistic, something like 28 days it takes to both create and to break a habit. So simple things like my habit, I guess a daily meditation practice, as you say, like just to wake up and have a routine in place is probably a really positive thing to move towards that, to create our own habits and routines.
Yeah, and that's the thing with meditation. It is about creating the habit of it.
Yeah.
So try and attach it to an existing habit that you already have can definitely help. Yeah. But going back to that question about social media, here's the thing, right? Why is it that you constantly check your social media feed? Think about that for a second, because we are uncomfortable with feeling discomfort. So we often avoid that discomfort and those feelings by going to social media, checking our news feeds as a way of distracting ourselves from our own feelings of discomfort.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's something that, so if you're someone that constantly looking at social media, that's a good question to ask yourself. Why am I constantly looking? What's driving me?
I think from my own situation, it's also because we're being drip fed tiny amounts of mini successes. It's like, let's use Facebook for example, which is something that I spend far too much time on. It's no,
Yeah.
I imagine it's no fluke that the notifications are coloured red. So you get this bright red sign that someone has commented or posted or shared or liked. And that can be addictive. It's crazy to think that that's the case, but that little rush that we get, we want more. And just on that a tiny bit of information that I heard, which kind of expresses that as best as I could, is that as soon as you log on to Facebook, apparently they've programmed it so that it's like a millisecond wait before you get that red notification. So you enter it, your anxiety, you're just waiting to see if there's a notification, and then it comes, and then it comes, or it doesn't come. And sometimes when it doesn't come, it makes you more addicted and hooked to that, those mini. So there's also, I know of, there are many apps as well, which I use one called Self-Control, believe it or not. Yeah. I use an app called Self-Control because I have no self-control, and that limits, I can put numbers of websites, for example, that I don't want to access for a number of minutes or hours, and then you can't do anything to override that. So there are other things.
And I think the thing, there was an interesting study that showed that we actually unlock our phones. Apple said we unlock our phones 80 times a day, but 80 times. So, but research, a company called D-Scout, I think it was, they found that we actually type, tap and swipe our phones on average 2,600 times a day. On average, 2,600. That was average. For high users, it was 5,470. Now we're doing that in front of our kids during meetings, while we're eating and while we're sleeping, right? And it is an addiction, and we don't really want to talk about it because we're almost all universally addicted. Yeah. And part of the problem is that we're addicted to a reward called dopamine. Yeah. Now, have you heard of dopamine? Dopamine's a neurotransmitter
absolutely.
That's produced in the brain.
What I'm referring to, this red notification, I know that this is a dopamine hit. This is exactly what this is.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's the brain's pleasure chemical. It motivates us to seek, and then we get a hit of dopamine. We look for something else, and then we get another dopamine hit. So this is called a dopamine loop. It might be, when you get home from work and you've got, 20 minutes to get dinner on the table, and an hour and a half later you're looking at designer dog breeds in Russia, right? So we all go down that rabbit hole. But it's, that constant switching of attention and the constant stimulation of dopamine is exhausting. Yeah. So we do need to be mindful of how we manage technology. So I teach people, some of the things that I teach people just quickly that really help them. I tell them, turn off all the notifications on your devices. Most of us agree that most of the time when we go and check those notifications, email notifications, they're completely unnecessary. So turn off your notifications. Try it for a week. Here's a challenge to anyone that's listening. Turn off all your notifications for a week. See how you go. When you're trying to do work where you need to focus and concentrate, put your phone onto flight mode so you won't be disturbed. As we mentioned, check your email. Don't check your email first thing in the morning. Don't have your phone next to your bed. Spend $10, get yourself an old school and alarm clock and wake up.
I do that, yeah.
Check. Yeah, and only check emails at set times. Say twice a day or three times a day, but don't compulsively check your emails as they roll into your inbox because you won't get anything done. So, and another thing to consider with technology is proximity. Instead of having your phone in your pocket or in your, in your bag, put it in your purse or your backpack or on the other side of the room. It'll, if if it actually takes effort to get to your device, you're less likely to check it. And, check your social media 2 or 3 times a day and try and limit it to an hour a day. So they're my tips for managing technology. So technology isn't good or bad, right? It's all about how we manage it. So, mindfulness allows us a choice on how we can deal with that. It helps us to take back control and have a little bit more of a choice on how we deal with that.
There are so many amazing bits of advice in that speech. So
it was like it was like I just tried to pile it all in at the end.
No, but it's perfect, and I think maybe we should head towards closing up the chat.
Yep.
And you mentioned to me a couple. So let's finish by pushing it forward. So you've given us ideas about. And I do some of those things, by the way. I do have an old school alarm clock, and I did need to put my telephone outside of my room. And I can still work much more on the no checking emails in the mornings and so forth. So you're going to run us through a small meditation, which would be amazing. And also, we chatted a couple of days ago when you spoke about a 5 senses meditation. So I thought we could close with you sort of having a chat about that, and then if you could lead me through a small meditation, that would be amazing.
Yeah, so there's a number of, so obviously I really try to encourage people to start a daily meditation practice. Start off 5 minutes in the morning, add in a minute a week, and trying to build up to 10, 20 minutes. 20 minutes of meditation, that's really is the sweet spot, I find. But 10 minutes is good too. So if you try and build up to that, and then throughout your day, if you can do little short micro meditations, which are great to do if you're feeling, stressed or overwhelmed, before a meeting, a presentation, but more importantly, to have a little mental break throughout the day, just to help your mind, reset, reboot, and recharge. So there's a number of little micro meditations, a couple of good ones. The 5 senses. So perhaps, right now we need to not be sitting in front of a computer screen all day. We know how bad it is for our health. So, get up, get outside, go for a walk. And this is a really simple meditation that you can use when you're out walking. So it's called 5 senses. So look for 5 things that you can see and sort of silently name them to yourself. And then 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can feel, 2 things that you can smell, 1 thing that you can taste. So we engage all our senses, because that's the thing about mindfulness. We engage our senses to bring us into the present moment. All right? So we engage our senses. We use our senses to help us in the present moment, So as an example, if you look at your hand right now, you can't look at your hand in the past and the future. You're looking at it right here in the present moment. So we engage our senses. So that's one little practice. That's one little mindfulness practice that you can use called 5 senses. And then the practice, another little practice I teach people is called the 3-minute breathing space. So maybe we could do that right now. Just 3 minutes.
Fantastic.
Practice.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. Let's just give it a go.
Eyes open or eyes closed?
Well, it's up to you. So just make sure that if for those that are sitting down, just make sure that your back's nice and straight if you can.
Okay.
Hands just resting in your lap or just palms down on your legs. And then just closing the eyes if that feels comfortable for you, or just lowering your gaze in front of you in a really loose and unfocused way. And so to start, we're just going to take a couple of nice deep breaths. Just breathing in through the nose, filling the belly and the lungs, and then slowly breathing out through the mouth. So breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. That's great. One more time. Breathe in and breathe out. And then just allowing the breath just to return to its natural rhythm. And then just bringing your attention into the body. Just being aware of where your body makes contact with the chair or the floor. The feeling of your hands resting in your lap or on your legs. And then just being aware of your feet touching the floor. And then just taking a couple of moments just to be aware of the whole body sitting here in this moment, the present moment. And then I want you just to bring your awareness to the belly, and then just rest your attention on the movement of the breath down in the belly. Just feeling the rising and falling of the breath as it comes in and out. No need to control the breath in any way. Just feeling the physical sensation of the breath as it comes in and goes out. Just focus on the rising and falling of the breath down in the belly. The mind wanders off many times. We bring it back just as many. And here we are, just giving ourselves the gift of some space. So much of our day is spent having to do something, change something, achieve something. Right now, there's nothing to do, there's nothing to change, there's nothing to achieve. And as our practice comes to an end, just bringing your awareness back into the body and just being aware of where your body makes contact with a chair, the space around you. And then whenever you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes and come back into your day.
Ray Good, you've made me cry.
I thought you was going to say you made me fall asleep. There you go, 3 minutes. You've given your prefrontal cortex a good workout. You've developed you've strengthened your brain a little bit there. You've rewired it. So do you feel a little bit calmer, a little bit more present, a little bit more focused?
Not a little bit. I feel a lot calmer. I needed that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so simple. Just 3 minutes can, especially I like to tell people, throughout your day, 3 o'clock in the afternoon when you're absolutely your mind is absolutely exhausted and you just feel like you can't think anymore, just stop and do a 3-minute meditation. But notice how you feel before and after. And, like with any of these practices, notice the benefits and it'll inspire you to continue. So hopefully I can inspire others to live more mindfully and start a daily meditation practice.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that. Thanks for the chat. That was phenomenal. I'd love to get you back at another time and we can go deeper into your crazy DJ days as well, because that's, they're really interesting stories. But I think, all things considering the state of the world at the moment, that discussion right now, I'm sure is going to be, excuse me, very valuable for anyone that's watching this. So thank you.
I hope so.
Before we end, how can people find out more about your work and find out more about The Good Place?
I hate to say it, but through social media, of course. I'm on, I have a presence on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn, and of course through my website, The Good Place. In fact, if you go and check it out, there's a lot of the science is on there, and also in my blog section, there's some guided meditations if you want to jump in and give them a go. There's a practice called a mindfulness practice. There's a 10-minute breathing practice, a body scan. So there's some free meditations if you're keen to give it a go. So through my website's probably the best place to kind of.
And what's the website address?
Thegoodplace.com.au.
Thegoodplace.com.au.
Yeah.
Ray Good, it was amazing having you in the liminal space, and I thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Okay.
Let's get out there and make the world a more mindful place. Huh?
Let's do it. Thanks, brother.
See you, mate.
Okay, bye-bye.
Cheers.
Many thanks for watching. I'd love to know what you thought of the episode, so please feel free to leave any comments or questions below. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Liminal Space.